My wife said she wanted to see other people, so I walked away, let silence do the talking, and built a new life with the one she never noticed before. I think it is time we both see other people. That is what she said. With a butter knife in one hand and an open jar of blackberry jam in the other, Doug did not drop his mug. He did not freeze. He just blinked once, as if trying to determine whether he had actually heard the words or just imagined them. The jam, dark and glossy, smeared across her toast like nothing had happened, like she had not just detonated 27 years of shared life over breakfast. He set his mug down slowly. Ceramic touched the wood table with a soft tap. "If you insist," he said, his voice level, almost too quiet for the room. Megan looked up, her expression a cocktail of mild surprise and practiced calm. She tilted her head. "That is it. You are not even going to." Doug raised a brow, then reached for the sports section. "You are an adult. You make your choices." She blinked now. A flicker of something passed through her eyes, doubt, maybe, or annoyance that the script was not playing out the way she had rehearsed in the mirror. But Doug was done offering performances. "Listen, quick break. We set a goal to hit 10,000 subscribers, so tap subscribe if you are liking these wild stories of betrayal. Now, let us get back to the madness." The rest of the breakfast was silent, except for the occasional crunch of toast and the shuffling of newspaper pages. Megan tapped her phone screen, checked her messages, and Doug noted it, smiled a little too fast, a little too wide. By 9 a.m., she was out the door, said she was meeting the girls for yoga. Funny, she had not mentioned yoga in months. Doug sat there for another 10 minutes after the door clicked shut, not moving, not thinking, just processing. Then he stood, walked to the hallway, and opened the cedar drawer where he kept the backup case. Not to the house, to the lake house. That evening, the call was not long, just a few sentences, a pause, a breath. "Elise, it is Doug," a rustle on the other end. She sounded cautious. "Doug. Hey, everything okay?" He stared out the kitchen window where the hydrangeas she planted 2 summers ago drooped under late spring rain. She said, "It is time we see other people." A longer pause. Then, "I am not calling to complain," he added quickly, already anticipating pity. I need a change of scenery, and I figured you might understand." Her voice softened. "You going to the lake?" "Yeah, I will bring wine." He hung up, exhaled once, and finally allowed himself to feel something. But not anger, not sorrow, just a strange electric stillness, like the moment before a system reboots. Later that night, Megan returned, her hair damp, the faint smell of someone else's cologne clinging to her clothes. She did not notice that his suitcase was gone. She did not notice that half the photo albums were missing from the den shelf. She definitely did not notice the empty hook where the lake house keys used to hang. She poured herself a glass of wine and turned on the T5, chuckling at a show he used to watch with her once. Doug was already miles away by then, watching the same rainfall over Lake Pendo Ryle with a bottle of Glenlivet in one glass. Just one. The old him would have fought, would have demanded answers, begged for clarity, asked why. But the old Doug was obsolete. She had made that clear. And as a retired systems analyst, Doug knew when the software breaks, you do not scream at it. You replace it quietly, efficiently, without warning. And sometimes, just sometimes, you restore an older version of something far more valuable, something stable, something loyal. He looked at the fireplace, then down at the screen of his phone, a message from Elise for words, "Leaving now." "Bring matches." Doug smiled for the first time in weeks. The next morning, Doug opened the closet, pulled down a single duffel, and laid it on the bed. No frantic packing, no tears, just methodical movement like a man preparing for a fishing trip, not a marital ejection. He selected his clothes, not by sentiment, but by utility. A few button-downs, a pair of hiking boots, his old flannel robe. He did not touch her side of the closet, did not even glance at it. Then came the photo albums. 4 of them, each leather-bound and dusted from years of disuse. They were not on display. Megan said they cluttered the shelves, but Doug had always liked them. His fingers hovered over the spines. One had a Polaroid of them in 1999, smiling outside their first house, faces younger but just as uncertain. He slid it into the box. Not because he wanted to remember, but because she had already started forgetting. He left a note on the counter. "No grand farewell, just taking some time. Do not wait up, D." Then he backed his truck out of the driveway and pointed it north toward Lake Pendo Ryle. The house by the lake had been their retirement dream, until Megan decided dreams were dull. So Doug finished the renovation himself, refinished the deck, rewired the plumbing, even put in a new wood stove, which she had called too rustic for her Pinterest boards. Now it was home. The moment he unlocked the door, something shifted. Not peace exactly, not yet, but clarity. He walked inside, opened the windows wide, and let the wind erase whatever scent she had left behind on his shirts. By noon, Elise arrived. She did not knock. She just stepped inside with a bag of groceries and a look that said, "I knew she would do this eventually." "You want coffee or something stronger?" Doug asked, gesturing to the liquor shelf. She raised an eyebrow. "It is 11 a.m. exactly." They drank coffee on the deck, watching a pair of loons drift by on the water. Neither of them talked about Megan. Not directly, just enough silence to say, "We do not need to." Back in the city, Megan was already rewriting the narrative. At brunch with her yoga friends, she sighed dramatically between bites of arugula salad. "Doug is going through something," she said, "a sort of late-life crisis. Isolation, maybe. You know how men get after retirement?" They all nodded, sympathetic, predictable. But later that week, her friend Joni sipped a mimosa and casually mentioned, "Oh, I passed by your lake house the other day. I think I saw Elise's Subaru in the driveway." Megan froze for half a second, barely enough to notice, but the twitch in her left eye betrayed her. "Elise," she repeated too evenly. "No, she said she was visiting her sister in Portland." Joni shrugged. "Maybe she stopped by. Cute little spot, though. You guys ever stay there?" Megan smiled tightly. "Not for years." Back home, Megan stood in front of the hallway mirror for an uncomfortably long time. She did not like the way she looked lately. Not tired, just faded. The kind of look a man forgets after enough quiet breakfasts and invisible evenings. Her fingers hovered over her phone. She considered calling Elise, but did not. Instead, she scrolled through her messages until she reached the one from Jeff. Work retreat. She stared at the last photo he had sent him in a hotel gym, shirtless, flexing. It suddenly looked cheap. At the lake, Doug stood barefoot on the dock, skipping stones across the evening water. Elise was inside making something that smelled like rosemary and garlic. He was not smiling, but he was not frowning either. He just looked steady, unshakable, the kind of man a woman forgets at her own peril. The snap of the screen door echoed like an old memory, familiar, sharp, and strangely comforting. Elise stepped into the lake house kitchen with 2 canvas bags looped over her arm and a bottle of Pinot Noir cradled against her ribs. She wore her usual denim jacket, hair in a loose twist, no makeup. Not because she did not care, but because she never needed it. Doug looked up from the stove. He was boiling water for pasta, or maybe just pretending to. "You always bring wine," he said. "You always act surprised." She smirked, setting the bottle on the counter. "Still drink it with ice?" He paused. "Only when I want to be judged." She laughed, that low, raspy kind of laugh that had always caught him off guard. The kind that sounded like it belonged in smoky blues bars or in quiet kitchens, not at brunch tables with Megan and her curated circle of judgment. They moved easily around each other, like they had been doing this for years, cooking, chopping, uncorking bottles. They did not talk about Megan, not yet. Instead, Elise asked about the lake house upgrades, the new insulation, the refinished floorboards. She noticed the old photo of Doug and Megan by the fireplace. She did not comment on it, but he saw her glance linger. By the time the fire was roaring, they had moved to the couch, 2 glasses deep, watching the flames like they held answers to questions neither of them was willing to ask. Doug broke the silence first. "Do you remember that night?" Elise did not look over. She did not need to. "Which one?" He hesitated. "The hospital, after the miscarriage." She inhaled slowly, almost imperceptibly. "Of course I do. It had been 20 years ago. Megan had lost the baby at 16 weeks. Doug had been wrecked, quietly, inwardly, the way men are trained to suffer. Megan had cried for days, but eventually moved on like it was a season that passed. Elise, on the other hand, had shown up with soup and stayed until 2 a.m. They sat in the kitchen, him and Elise speaking barely a word. At some point she had reached out, just touched his hand. Their faces had been inches apart. He remembered the way her eyes looked in that moment, sad, yes, but also fiercely loyal. Protective. "I should have kissed you," Doug said quietly. Elise did not flinch. She took a slow sip from her glass and set it down. "You were not mine to kiss." They sat in silence again, but it was not empty this time. It buzzed like the second before thunder. Outside, rain tapped lightly on the roof. Eventually, Doug leaned back and let his head rest against the cushions. Elise stood, grabbed a blanket from the chair, and draped it over him without a word. "Sleep," she whispered. "You look like you have not in years." She left the fire burning low, turned off the kitchen light, and disappeared into the guest room. Doug did not wake once. Back in the city, Megan sat in her car outside a wine bar with Jeff from work. She checked her phone. Still nothing from Doug. Her lips curled into a smirk as Jeff said something arrogant and empty. She laughed louder than necessary. But her eyes drifted to the rearview mirror and stayed there. Not because she cared about traffic, but because she did not like the way her own reflection looked under dim parking lot light, like someone watching something slip away. Something she thought she had caged long ago. Megan never liked silence. Not the real kind, anyway. The kind that did not pause. It just vanished. Doug's silence was not wounded. It was worse. It was comfortable. 3 days had passed since he left. She did not call, did not text, told herself it was strategy, not pride. Let him sulk, she told her friend Casey over soy cappuccinos. He will come around. But Doug did not sulk. Doug disappeared. By day 4, Megan's thumb hovered over his contact. She did not press it. Instead, she reached for her oldest trick, social probing. "So, Elise," she said that Friday during their post-tennis brunch. She said it casually, as if Elise was a loose end in a story she barely remembered. Casey blinked. "Have not seen her in a while. Actually, she skipped brunch 2 Sundays in a row, said she was out of town." "Portland, right?" Megan asked quickly. I think that was last month. Said something about needing fresh air, lake something." Megan's fork stopped mid-air. Her smile did not. Later that afternoon, she drove. Not out of jealousy, Megan told herself, but out of curiosity. It was her right, was it not? She helped pick the tile in that lake house. It was practically hers. The gravel crunched under her Lexus tires as she coasted past the narrow bend that opened onto Doug's property. She slowed, headlights off. The lake house looked occupied, cozy even. Warm yellow light flickered in the windows. The porch lamp was on. Shadows danced behind the drawn curtain. 2 figures not facing each other but near, too near. Doug's silhouette leaned in briefly. The second figure's hand lifted, wine glass maybe. Megan's stomach twisted. It was not a violent jolt. It was precise, like something calibrated, inevitable. She parked a few 100 feet away and got out. Cold air bit her ankles. She walked quietly across the grass until she could just barely see inside. 2 plates on the table, steam rising from a cast-iron skillet, a fire roaring in the hearth. And then Elise stepped into view, hair down, wearing one of those oversized cardigans she always claimed was just for home. Megan did not move. She just stood there watching the glass fog slightly from inside. She called Elise's phone. No answer. Again, voicemail. By the time she got home, her hands were shaking, but not from cold. She poured herself a generous glass of wine, opened Instagram to distract herself, and stopped mid-scroll. Doug had posted. He never posted a single photo. Grilled salmon on cedar planks, a bottle of Red Lake in the background. But it was not the food. It was the wine glass on the table, one full, one half full. The hand resting near the stem of the second glass wore a silver bracelet, Elise's bracelet, the one Megan had given her for her birthday 5 years ago. Suddenly, the silence was not mysterious. It was humiliating. Doug had not vanished. He had recalibrated. She had not lost a husband. She had forfeited a witness, one who now had better company. Megan shut her phone off, dropped it on the marble countertop, and stared out the window. But the city lights looked dimmer tonight. And the silence? The silence now grinned. The morning sun was cruel. Megan sat in the kitchen, robe clinging too tightly, espresso cooling untouched. Her phone lay face down on the table like it had betrayed her. In a way it had. Doug had not responded. Not to the first message, not to the second, not even to the one she almost deleted twice before hitting send. "Can we talk?" Maybe I was rash. She timed it carefully, 8:06 a.m., right when she knew he would be sipping his second cup of black coffee, scrolling headlines with military precision, like always. But Doug did not bite. 8 hours later, when she nearly convinced herself he had not seen it, her phone buzzed. Just once. No typing bubbles. No ellipses of hope. One message, 4 words, no need. You were clear. Megan stared at the screen so long it locked itself. She unlocked it again just to confirm he had not said more. He had not. No curiosity, no anger. No. What do you mean, Rash? Just that maddening surgical sentence. You were clear. And he was right. She had been. She delivered her little bomb at breakfast with a dollop of jam and a smug tone of modern empowerment. She expected confusion, protest, drama, but Doug recalculated, and now he was gone. No begging, no pleading, no breakdowns, just gone. She stood abruptly, knocking her chair sideways, and stalked into the den, poured herself a splash of bourbon, even though it was barely noon. Her hand shook as she typed the next message. "Are you seeing someone? No punctuation, no explanation." She had sinned and stared. Watched the delivered stamp appear, and then nothing. No read receipt, no reply. Just the cold glow of her screen like a digital shrug. Minutes passed, then 20, then 1 hour. She refreshed his Instagram. No new posts. She checked Elise's. Still private. Always private. Megan clicked unfollow, then follow again just to reset the notification. Maybe Elise would see it and feel something. Another hour passed. Still no reply. She walked to the mirror in the hallway. Her reflection stared back. Elegant, composed, controlled. But even she did not buy it anymore. The moment cracked when she muttered, "He is bluffing." Then, without warning, she hurled her phone across the room. It struck the wall near the bookshelf, splintering the corner of a framed photo, her and Doug at a fundraiser 6 years ago. She stared at the cracked glass, at her own smile frozen next to his. It used to be hers, that smirk, that quiet steadiness in his eyes. Now it belonged to someone else. Someone who cooked salmon with him on cedar planks and laughed in soft, private spaces. Megan paced the living room, chewing at a thumbnail. The silence in the house was not peaceful. It was mocking. Every quiet corner whispered. You thought he would chase you. You thought he would break. You thought wrong. She glanced at the wall clock. 5:17 p.m. Doug still had not replied. Her mind raced. Maybe Elise was just being a friend. Maybe Doug was testing her. Maybe he was just pretending. But beneath those fragile excuses, the truth pressed hard. Megan had fired a shot, expecting smoke, and got a precision strike instead. Doug was not pretending. Doug was done. She rehearsed the moment 3 times in the car mirror. Hair down, loose curls, check. Light makeup, just enough to say, "I am still the woman you married, not I am trying too hard." Check. The navy blue dress cut just above the knee that Doug once said made her look dangerous in a good way. Check. Megan stood at the foot of the lake house steps, smoothing the fabric with sweaty palms. The gravel crunched beneath her heels as she walked up, each step stiff with denial. The sun was just dipping behind the trees, casting long gold shadows across the porch. Perfect time for a heartfelt talk, she told herself. A little nostalgia, a soft apology. A door left cracked just enough for the past to walk back in. She knocked, a pause, then footsteps. But when the door opened, it was not Doug. It was Elise. Hair wet, wrapped in a towel that clung like an afterthought. Steam curled from the hallway behind her. Her face, flushed and makeup-free, held no surprise. No fake smile, just calm. Megan blinked, trying not to react. "Hey, I was just in the area," she said, voice rehearsed, tone casual. Elise tilted her head like she'd just spotted a squirrel that did not belong on the porch. "Were you?" she said softly. Not warm, not hostile, just indifferent. Before Megan could answer, Doug appeared behind her. He was not in flannel, not this time. He wore a slate gray sweater and jeans, barefoot, looking like a man entirely at home. His hand landed on Elise's shoulder, lightly, naturally, as if it had been there 100 times before. Megan felt it before she saw it. Her knees buckled slightly, like someone had unhooked the cables holding her up. Doug did not flinch. He did not stiffen his smile or blink twice. He just looked at her like she was the mailman, expected, unremarkable. "Hi," he said. Not a welcome, not a question, just a syllable of polite acknowledgement. Megan forced a smile so wide it almost cracked. "You look well." Elise stepped aside just slightly. Not an invitation, more like making room for air. Doug did not move. "Do you have a minute?" Megan asked, suddenly aware that she was still holding her clutch like a weapon. Doug exchanged a glance with Elise, one she was not privy to. Then gently he said, "We are actually in the middle of something." The words were not cruel. They were worse. True. Megan's throat tightened. She tried to pivot. "I just wanted to make sure you were okay." Doug's hand never left Elise's shoulder. "I am." Her voice cracked just slightly. "This is not how it was supposed to go." He nodded slowly. "You are right. Then Elise turned to him and said, "I will finish setting the table," and disappeared into the house, leaving Megan outside, still smiling, still clutching her little black clutch, like it held her dignity. Doug stepped forward half a pace. "You said you wanted to explore other options. This is one." Her eyes scanned his face for something: pity, anger, a flicker of doubt. But there was nothing left to grab, nothing to twist. He was already gone. She was just late in noticing. "I did not think you would," she began. But he raised a hand, not to silence her, just to stop the performance. "I know," he said. "You thought I would wait." And with that he turned, walked back inside, and closed the door behind him. Not slammed, closed. The kind of closing you do not come back from. The next evening, Megan returned. She did not knock this time. She stood at the threshold of the lake house like a woman trying to reclaim something she never fully owned. She had spent all day rationalizing. "They are just playing house. It is nothing real. He is hurt. He is reacting." But hurt men do not serve wine in decanters and light cedarwood candles before dinner. Doug opened the door himself, without surprise or annoyance. "Elise is making halibut. You can stay if you are hungry." The tone was formal, civil, the kind people use with ex-colleagues or neighbors or ghosts. Megan hesitated, half expecting Elise to protest, but she did not. She simply emerged from the kitchen carrying a ceramic dish, set it gently on the table, and laid out 3 plates. Megan noticed the napkins were cloth, folded into triangles. Elise always folded hers that way. They sat, Doug at the head, Elise to his left. Megan, uncertain, took the seat across. It felt too far to reconnect, too close to hide. Conversation hovered at 10,000 feet. Doug asked about her car's tire issues. He had noticed the wear last winter. Elise complimented the dress Megan wore. Megan offered thanks like it tasted wrong in her mouth. No one mentioned a thing between them, that jagged smoking crater in the middle of the table. It was Megan who finally broke the script. She set her fork down, still untouched, and leaned forward. "Doug, I have been thinking about what we had." Doug did not stop cutting his fish. "You have had time to." "I did not mean." He looked up, calm, unbothered. "You wanted other options. This is one of them." A silence fell so thick it felt engineered, like the room itself had paused to hear what would come next. Elise said nothing, but she looked straight at Megan. Not cruelly, not smugly, just directly. Megan felt the weight of it, the accusation not spoken, the question not asked. "Why did you throw it away?" She reached for her glass, realized it was still full, and placed it back down. Her fork scraped the plate once as she adjusted it, and then rested beside the untouched food like a flag of surrender. Doug reached for Elise's hand casually beneath the table. It was not meant for show. It was just normal, routine, something real. Megan's stomach clenched, not from hunger, but from the sudden understanding that she had walked into a scene, not a conversation. She was not a participant. She was an audience, a forgotten character watching the sequel unfold. When Elise rose to clear the plates, Doug stood with her. "Thanks for coming by," he said. Not, "Let us talk again." Not, "This is not over." Just, "Thanks." Megan nodded mechanically. She rose outside. The wind had picked up. The trees whispered things she did not want to hear. As she walked to her car, Megan glanced back through the window. They were laughing at something. Not loudly, just enough. And in that moment, it hit her. Not like a crash, but like a slow, cruel leak. She had not just lost him. She had made sure someone else found him. She waited until midnight to write it. The house was dark, except for the amber glow of her desk lamp. Megan sat hunched over the oak writing desk Doug had given her for their 10th anniversary, a gift he had customized with secret drawers and dovetail joints back when he still believed in permanence. She wrote longhand, the way she used to when apologizing meant something. Her pen scratched across the page with urgency, the loops in her handwriting growing messier the more truth she tried to hide in elegance. It was not an apology, not exactly. It was a plea disguised as reflection. Pages of half remorse, selective memory, and strategic guilt. She mentioned the miscarriage. She mentioned how people change, how marriage is never simple. She wrote that she had made a mistake, but only because she thought they had both given up. That she never stopped loving him, that maybe there was still time to fix what was broken, that he did not need to make things final. She signed it with her full name, folded it twice, no envelope, no perfume. She drove out to the lake house under a moonless sky, headlights carving a pale path through Pine Line Road. Gravel crunched like bones under her tires as she coasted up to the mailbox, the same one she painted a soft green in the year they bought the place. She slipped the letter in and paused. Some childish part of her expected the air to shift, for the trees to whisper some hint of mercy. They did not. She drove home without looking back. The next evening, Doug and Elise sat by the fireplace, the kind of quiet between them that only exists when no one needs to be entertaining. He sipped bourbon. She read a dog-eared novel. Outside, snow flirted with the edges of the deck. Elise stood and walked to the front door. "Mail is here." She returned with a few catalogs, a gas bill, and the letter. She held it up like a curiosity from Megan. Doug did not react. He took it, unfolded it, and read every line in silence. No frown, no smile, no anger, just stillness. When he finished, he looked into the fire. The flames licked at the logs, hungry and wild, casting gold across the stone hearth. Doug stood, walked to the edge of the fireplace. Without a word, he fed the letter to the flames. The paper curled instantly, blackening along the edges like a photograph dissolving in acid. Elise watched but said nothing. He stared into the fire for a long moment, then murmured, more to himself than her, "No more false chances." Then he sat down again and reached for her hand. Not in response, not in reaction, just continuation. Outside, the wind stirred, but the house held steady. Megan did not receive a reply. She would not. She was not supposed to be there. That is what Megan told herself the second her Lexus screeched into the driveway. Elise's silver Subaru was parked too neatly in front of the garage. The same spot Megan had claimed for decades with a flick of her wrist and a sigh through her teeth. That stupid old car, always smelling like peppermint gum and pine cleaner, now looked like a territorial flag planted squarely in Megan's past. She slammed the door shut harder than she needed to, marched across the lawn like it was still hers to march. The curtains were open, the porch lights on. Through the front window, she saw Doug in the living room. He was sorting through a crate, records, his records. The jazz vinyls she always said were good background noise for cleaning. His back was to her, slow, methodical. Elise walked in from the hallway, arms full of tools, his tools, the ones Megan had moved to the garage cabinets years ago because they cluttered the vibe. She set them on the couch like she knew exactly what belonged to him. Megan did not knock. She barged in. The door was not locked. Doug did not even flinch when she stepped inside. "Why is she here?" Megan's voice cracked between fury and panic, the pitch unfamiliar to even her own ears. Elise glanced up. She did not look startled, just mildly inconvenienced. Doug stood slowly. His eyes were calm, resigned. The kind of expression you wear at a funeral you saw coming for years. "She is part of my life now," he said, just finishing the last page. "The last page?" Megan echoed, breath catching. "This is our house." Doug looked around. "No, it was. I have already signed the transfer. My name is coming off everything next week. You do not get to do that," she said louder now. "Not with her. Not with her." Elise did not speak. She just turned and picked up another crate. Doug watched her with something Megan had not seen in years, quiet regard. "She was my friend," Megan hissed. "Mine." Doug did not shout, did not even raise his voice, just said flatly, "She was." Megan's mouth opened, then closed. He stepped forward. Not threatening, just clear. "You threw us both away. I just did not realize it at the time." The words landed like a dropped cinder block. Megan stood there, breath shallow, heartbeat pounding like a warning siren in her ears. The room around her, her curtains, her art, her chosen light fixtures, suddenly looked foreign, decorated for a woman who no longer existed. Elise crossed behind her, carrying another box. She paused just long enough to glance at Megan, not with pity, with finality. Megan did not move. Could not. She had wanted options, choices, open doors, and wide margins. But now she understood. Every choice is a wager, and she had bet against the one man who never played games. Doug did not look back as he picked up the crate of jazz records and walked out the door behind Elise. No flourish, no parting words, just silence. And for the first time, Megan realized the silence was not coming from him. It was echoing inside her. The sun dropped low over the lake, brushing the water in copper and quiet gold. Doug sat back in the old porch chair he had refinished last spring, its cedar arms warm under his forearms, the rhythm of the world finally sinking to his own pulse again. Next to him, Elise cradled a mug of tea, Earl Grey, strong the way she liked it, and stared into the horizon with that steady, unreadable gaze of hers. They did not talk much that evening. They did not need to. Every word that mattered had already been said in the spaces between them over the last few weeks, in late-night cooking and shared playlists and porch repairs and fireside glances. There was no performance, no overt declarations of anything. Just two people quietly sinking after decades of being orbiting satellites, close enough to see, never allowed to touch. Doug reached over and laid his hand on hers. No squeeze, no dramatic pause, just rest. Elise glanced down. Her thumb brushed over his once, then returned to her cup. Behind them in the distance, Megan's house, now hers alone, sat wrapped in silence. Not the comforting kind. The kind that feels like a mouth sealed shut after a scream that went unheard. The moving van idled at the curb. Two workers moved like shadows across the driveway, wheeling out Doug's final boxes, old woodworking tools, a few paintings he had actually liked, and the humidor Megan always complained made the den smell like an old man's regrets. Inside, Megan stood in the upstairs window. Her eyes followed every motion as if she might reverse them by sheer force of will. She did not wave, did not cry, did not even open the glass. She just watched. Doug did not look back, not once. No long glance at the life he built and left behind. No farewell to the woman who thought his patience was infinite. She had gambled on permanence, but permanence does not exist when it is taken for granted. Out on the porch, Elise finished her tea and set the cup down with a soft clank. Doug exhaled slowly and watched the light shift as the sun slid beneath the waterline, smooth as a curtain being drawn. A bird called in the distance, some kind of loon. Elise leaned back, eyes half closed. I like it here. Doug smiled without looking at her. Me too. The last box slid into the truck. The door shut, the van pulled away, and somewhere behind a double-pane window, a woman who once believed she had the upper hand stood frozen in the ruins of her own arrogance. There was no slamming door, no final scream, just the gentle roll of tires on gravel, and a man who simply left with her best friend, her blind spot, her constant, and never once looked over his shoulder.
He's like, no, actually, I'm good. He said, actually, that's enough of whatever the fuck that was. Oh, you're back to looking at me, because I tooted. I know, I tooted, and you're like, what the fuck was that, dog? I get it, I get it, I get it. World's Edge? Ooh. Not my favorite map, not gonna lie. But I think there is a secret sub-meta developing. The Hemlock was OP, so people are just ego peeking, knowing that their gun does more damage than other people's guns. And so there's a sub-meta of sniper rifles being good again, because people are just ego peeking and putting their whole ass out there. And so you can usually just catch someone off with a fucking cheeky headshot-aroo. Also, I don't know what placements is, but apparently I've got fucking placements again. I played one last night, I got second. Ooh, plat lobby. Does Minecraft still do, I think it's kind of ebbing out of its big moment right now. Minecraft speedrunning just had a huge resurgence. Like at the start of the year and the end of last year, Minecraft speedrunning was like the wave for a while. And I think most of the people that like were big on Minecraft speedrunning have like pivoted now. Yeah, it always comes back though. Minecraft always comes back. It just like takes a good update or like something interesting happening or some factor. People just like, you know, have the 2-week phase, rock up. I'll let this guy get the fucking gibby. Why not? I probably should have played someone recon. Oh, he's not even playing. He's not actually picking Gibby. He's just off freaking lying.
The moon is bright. Let's channel feminine.
Why was Roblox so bad? Dude, I see Aaron always putting out Roblox stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, it hurts my brain because it feels like the content is so, you know, those like toy reaction YouTube videos where it's like Ryan's toy fucking whatever the fuck or those things. It feels like that kind of content where they're just like, they're just playing with toys and like hanging out, and not really like making a plan. They just like, he's like, oh yeah, here's bee making simulator, or it's just some like really random like fucking shit that I don't think people actually know that well. Oh, it's fucking E District, dude. Never mind. What a time to be alive.
Enhance my weapon. It seems stronger, doesn't it? Attention. First blood. First blood. Someone cracked under pressure.
In the moonlight. When I was like 3, this was my favorite song. You made chocolate chip pancakes? Wow. I think back when it was more in its infancy, like 11 plus years ago, it was solid. Yeah, I think I 100% can see that a bit.
Be careful.
It would have still been like exciting and like, you know, anything is possible and very like, definitely would have been coded for that to be like optimal.
Enhance my
And you can like, oh, get on and play whatever you want with friends, which is cool.
nearby ring. I'm closing in 45. Attention. Evo harvesters are
The games themselves being better, but wholly part of the magic was how creative people were with the limitations it had. Yeah.
30 seconds.
Whereas now there's like, it's almost like there's, people don't just fucking play they don't just like make something because they think of it up, you know? They make it because they're like, I think this could go viral and make me $5,000. At least that's how I feel about seeing some of the shit on there. Can you believe I won an Apex game with Trippy? I mean, is your back okay?
From dust and dreams.
Are you booked in at the chiropractors or?
Champion out. I don't think anyone will miss this. The ring's moving.
He was down and I clutched the win? Yeah, I mean, I fucking thought I had knuckle jump.
Getting healthy. Dum dum. Well then, we have a care package
Hey,
on the
not a
way.
bad shot though. Maybe it's my day.
Eat wasted. Wait, care package over there.
Enemy there. Shooting at me.
Firing on enemy.
Juicing me shields.
Yeah, I agree, Ultra. Super crazy, eh? And I mean, I think the audience has shifted a lot with Roblox. It's gone from like kids just being like kids to, I think there is like a lot of that predatory like adults fucking trying to milk it.
Reloading.
Launching me knuckle cluster. Enemy shield. Broke that enemy shield. Double loading, cut. This guy's about to fall. Launching me knuckle cluster. Broke that enemy shield.
Stop. Charging shields.
Dude, sorry, this fight's cooked.
Enemy shield cracked.
Healing. Give me a sec.
Strong enough to pierce.
I really want to fucking push this, I'm not gonna lie.
Hold on. Recharging shields.
Deploying me knuckle cluster. Grenade, fellas. Dude, I'm down.
Always ready with the fallback. Returning here to avoid next. This is too much.
Dude, these guys just don't want to push. Like, how much fucking damage do I have to fucking do over and over? Oh, of course it's me.
Reloading.
Non-user taking bodies off the rim.
I'll walk it off. Next ring's fast.
It's just a babysitting tool? Dude, I think that's a lot of things. That's like just so much shit nowadays.
Healing. Give me a sec. Replicator incoming. You lot get him up.
They're focusing on another squad is trying to crush us. My beautiful voice is no more.
1 HP, literally 1. Oh.